the drug shipments coming through from Mexico that his superiors were blocking from being investigated. And then I have a long list of others on my website that were former government agents. But my sources go back way, way back. These are people that were involved in October Surprise, people that were involved in the drug smuggling during the Reagan-Bush administration and the Iran-Contra affair. And a couple of my sources were involved in this Operation Tailwind. That's where the U.S. was hunting down military personnel that had defected. That's the type of stuff. And then also some of them were some of the CIA assets were had covert CIA companies that dealt in savings and loan frauds, financial frauds, drug smuggling, things like that. Now, most of the public is either illiterate about these things or they can't believe that they exist. And thanks to the public's naivety, we've had, for instance, there was such a breakdown in virtually every government entity that was responsible for preventing, like 9/11. There was that corruption still exists. The same culture of corruption that made possible the housing and financial scandals, they're still with us. So the public's naivety makes these things possible, and of course these are still existing. So what I do is I try to write books, let the public know what by being indifferent on these matters, how they're paying for it.
Mm-hmm. Let's go into one of these instances where you've spoken to people inside our government or inside these agencies, the CIA or whatever government agency we're talking about, either local PDs or whatever. Now, they've given you an instance of corruption. They've given you a specific instance of corruption where they have discovered where there was drug dealing going on between organized crime being condoned or allowed by bribery through some, enforcement officials. And then, of course, you filed this information or complaint with the federal government.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can you give us a specific instance where was it the CIA involved? Was it the local enforcement? On our past show, we spoken about Lindley Del Vecchio and that whole thing where there was 8 mob murders and all of that. But what instance, where let's say a guy like Del Vecchio was part of this drug dealing team and was working not only with the mob but was working, like as a double agent, so to speak. He would take care of people that the mob wanted him to whack out or to get information on. And do you understand where I'm coming from here? Here's a guy put into place, but he's working both sides of the fence. He's working as an agent, but yet he's also working with the mob.
No, let me let's see. There's so many examples I can give you, but let me stick to what you've just mentioned. I first started finding out about the Vecchio from about 15 years ago. I learned this from this FBI agent who worked under the Vecchio. And you'll have to excuse my pronunciation of the name. That may not be quite correct. But at any rate, what he did, now, he's a highly decorated Vietnam pilot. He had many decorations, lieutenant colonel. He's working as an FBI agent in the New York City office. Mm-hmm. And he's discovering and trying to report, for instance, there was a covert CIA operation in the New York City area that was funding and arming Iraq during the 1980s. This is during the Reagan-Bush administration. So he's trying to report this, and his boss is telling him, knock it off. Then he's discovering different mob activities, and DeVicchio keeps telling him, look, terminate that process. So what he did then, Richard Toss was the name of the FBI agent. He wrote a letter to members of Congress. And if he had told me before he did that, I would have told him that's a total waste of time. And all they're going to do is they turn the letter over to the Department of Justice guys that were covering up for all this. So the first thing they did to him, they charged, to get him immediately out of the office, they charged him with misusing a government-issued credit card. 4 years earlier, he had put $8 worth of gas in his car while he's on a government surveillance using his private car. But that got him out of the office. And then what they managed to do, and this I noticed is not too hard to do, the state prosecutors then charged him with improper conduct with some teenagers. So anyhow, he was sentenced to, he's in Dannemora, New York now. I think it was a 50-year prison sentence he got for allegedly having sexual conduct with those teenagers. But then some years later, I started, and this is in 2002, Gregory Scarpa Jr. contacted me. So he started giving me all of the information about how his father was involved in serial murders with DeVicchio. So now, about the same time, when he's telling me this, the House Judiciary Committee was conducting hearings on murders perpetrated by FBI agents in the Boston office with organized crime figures. So I contacted every member of the House Judiciary Committee, I think there was about 24 of them, notifying them that I had two witnesses, and that would be, of course, my former FBI agent and a mafia guy. And I offered to provide them the information about murders that were occurring in the New York City office. Well, would you believe it? Not a single one of them responded, even though I identified myself as a former government agent. And you can't have any better witnesses than this, than an FBI agent and the son of a major mafia figure. So
you're talking about Gregory Scarpa Jr., right?
Yeah. So anyhow, this is in 2002. Then, of course, as you know, 4 years later, the Brooklyn district attorney, I guess he was forced to file murder charges because of the media publicity that was developing. And so murder charges were filed against DeVicchio. And then all of a sudden, and totally contrary to prosecutor conduct, well, first the first witness was the mistress or the common law wife of Gregory Scarpa Sr., and she provided very reliable, very specific information about the murders. Well, without going into too many details.
Well, what type of information did she provide? What was she saying? What was she claiming?
She had information about being present when DeVicchio and Gregory Scarpa Sr. were talking about people that had to be bumped off because Scarpa was being given the information of government informants. So government informants go to the FBI to give information